I would put garbage into my lead follow-up system. So what I mean by that is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is a seller that has to do something, right? And a 1 is someone that you've heard this before. I'm only gonna sell if I get my price. That's not always the best seller, is it? If their price is realistic, that's a great seller. But if their price isn't, then that's a problem. So, who was in the industry in 2012? Okay, I was in the industry. We were doing short sales and tons of foreclosures. It was messy, right? So we haven't sold 4 million transactions since then, and at that time we only had 990,000 real estate agents in the country. You know how many agents there are in the country right now? 1.45 million. So it's becoming like the Hunger Games for real estate, right? It really is. And what we do as the marketplace changes, because it is, that doesn't change, guys. We still have to blah, blah, blah. We have to talk to people, right? What changes is the amount of what we do. That's key. So anytime we can schedule a little bit more lead follow-up or prospecting time, that's important. In fact, that's the next point. Practice 2-a-days. Who knows what a 2-a-day is? Okay, so essentially a 2-a-day is if you don't have an appointment from your prospecting session in the morning that you do every day, I'm sure we all do that, and you don't have an appointment that you're going on in the afternoon, well, what else have we got to do but a 2-a-day? In the afternoon, we seek more opportunities. We get back on the phones, we do more lead follow-up. Does that make sense? And that's how we'll be successful. The next, number 5, and the 5th thing is focus on the opportunity, not the obligation. So what does this mean? There's a book that I've read called Taming Your Gremlin. If you haven't read this book, I would encourage that you do. What do you guys think that, the author was a psychologist, so based on that insight, what do you think our gremlin is? What would you guess that he was writing about? Ourselves? It's our mind. It's our mind. And our mind isn't always our best friend, right? Sometimes our mind can make us feel like we're not the best. And it happens this way. In his book, Rick Carson tells us there are words that indicate when he calls it our gremlin, our mind, our gremlin, is on the scene. And these are words to watch for, because this will tell us when we're putting ourselves down. And then we need to have a conversation with our mind and say, hey mind, you need to leave me alone. So here's the words. Well, I have to prospect again, or I need to prospect again, or I should prospect again, or I should have to. I should have prospected. Now the first 3 are about what state of time. It's in the future, right? And that's not here. That state of time can never help us because the future is just an illusion. It's not real until we actually get there. And then the last one is I should have, that's just us beating ourselves up about something that maybe we should have done. So here's the real question. When we're using language like this, how do we feel? Do we feel at our best? Brett?
No.
We're beating ourselves up, right? Yeah, that doesn't serve us. When we go to get on the phone to call clients and we're beating ourselves up, is that serving us? It's not serving the client because we're not going to connect easily. So the thing that I like to akin it to is, are we coming from lack or are we coming from abundance? And usually those phrases mean that we're coming from lack. And that's just a check-in. That's why I bring this to our attention. Now, the next opportunity is, so are we coming from opportunity or obligation? I just described obligation. So if we're coming from opportunity, in Matthew Ferry's course, Sales Mastery, he asks, who would like to have an unfair advantage in the marketplace to get more clients, right? And he tells us, he says, make feeling good the highest goal. If we feel good before we pick up the phone to call a client, is there a greater chance that we might connect with that client? When we feel good or when we help someone, how does it make us feel? Accomplished. That's an emotion. That's a good emotion, right? 100%. So when feeling good is the highest goal, everything works. You're easy to be around. We get on a roll, right? It's easy to do business with us, right? The right stuff comes out of our mouths. We say the right things, correct? But when we feel great, is it easy for people to do business with us when we feel great?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I know some of you ladies are from the next convolution, so. But it's going to work out similar numbers. The 3,000 transactions a month, which is 6,000 sides, with an average commission of about 13,000, that's $78 million that we have as an opportunity. If we wake up and we say, I have opportunity, as opposed to, I have to get on the phones, it's a different perspective. Does that make sense? So ask yourself, how much of this opportunity do you want? And then feeling good with some money in our pocket is never a bad thing, right? So it's all what we focus on. So how can we make lead follow-up fun versus drudgery? And here's what I mean. Just 4 or 5 years ago, this is what I was doing. I would put garbage into my lead follow-up system. So what I mean by that is on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 is a seller that has to do something, right? And a 1 is someone that, you've heard this before, I'm only going to sell if I get my, what's the price? Thank you. I'm only going to sell if I get my price. That's not always the best seller, is it? If their price is realistic, that's a great seller. But if their price isn't, then that's a problem. So what I was doing that was a big mistake, those are like 1s, 2s, and 3s, right? The sellers that we really want to focus on are the 8s, 9s, and 10s. I was just like, I would talk to someone, okay, great, had a conversation, I would put them into my lead follow-up. They were burying, the 1s, 2s, and 3s were burying the 8s, 9s, and 10s. So I could spend a whole lot of time doing lead follow-up and just get really discouraged. It was just not, it was not good. It wasn't fulfilling, right? So we want to keep that in mind. And then leads, in order for that to happen and for that not to happen, I've discerned that we have to have 5 criteria for me to put someone into my lead follow-up system. And here's the criteria. If we don't have all 5 of these, they should not go into my lead follow-up system. And this is important. This has made lead follow-up go from drudgery for me to like Christmas time, opening gifts. It's actually become fun. So if we know these 5 things, we don't have any garbage leads, and then it gets fun. We need to know their motivation. That sounds simple, but we need to know where and why. We need to know their time frame, so when they want to do this. We need to know willingness to choose me or switch agents if we're working expireds, right? Or if we're working with for sale by owners. And the willingness to choose me also comes from, if their mom is a realtor, do I have a chance of even working with this person? No. So if we don't ask that question and know that, then we can't put them into our lead follow-up system. Simple as that. Client-directed follow-up. How many of you ever heard the expression, cooperation equals motivation, right? That's very real. I think it makes a lot of sense. So if I get to a place in the conversation, I know that I've got an opportunity to work with that client because their mom's not a realtor. I know their time frame, I know their motivation. And I say, you know what, I have a great deal of respect for you and your investment of time. So I'm just curious, I realize today's not the day that you're going to do anything. When would it make sense for me to follow up with you next? And they say, call me in a month. Well, now they're bought into the potential of working with me, right? Now, am I going to call them back in a month? Who said that? You're exactly correct. What's the formula? What do we do when they say call them back in a month?
This is half the time. I don't know, sometimes it should be close. Because if you don't call them, somebody else will.
You're exactly correct. The leads that we have, everybody else has those leads. We've got to assume that, right? So, and then the last is contact information. So obviously we're talking to someone on the phone, we have their phone number. And if I say to them, hey, you know what, is this the best number to reach you at? And they say, no, it'd be my cell. May I have that number? No. Cooperation equals motivation. Now you've really got to evaluate. You might want to go back to motivation and time frame or what they're looking for. Okay? So the next thing let's look at is there's a Harvard Business Review article. And I love this because it's a hack for lead follow-up. And I hope this helps you guys. The authors spent 3 years of going over data from 15,000 it's just not the right time. How many of you have received one of those? First thing, what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna have a whiteboard. It's gonna be this big. That's as big as the whiteboard is. They show up as a thumbnail, but it doesn't show up as a link. You know how when you get a link and you're like, I'm not opening that.